Welcome to the Love Story Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Green, where we are capturing the magic of every love story.
Why, hello.
How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I hear you have a puppy and a fiance and all kinds of new stuff.
Yes.
You just been knocking it out this fall.
Exactly. Just, busy. Got to get stuff done.
That's right.
Yeah,
and they'll both keep you busy, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. Yes. And this puppy, this little basset hound, he is great. It's those sad eyes. And at first I thought that was just natural, but he plays it up. If he thinks he's going to get food, all of a sudden he's the happiest dog on the planet. But when I say let's go outside, no,
they're smart. They're like little kids. They just know.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They can play you.
Definitely. What have you been up to?
Oh, same stuff. I've been, let's see, this fall, I don't know if I've talked to you about this or not. I've launched a new nonprofit based on the same stuff that I do with the book and the podcast. It's the Learning Love Foundation. And so we're doing mental health education, doing setting up workshops and seminars and so forth with like companies to deal with, how to love what you do for a living, even though every job's a grind sometimes. And avoiding burnout and all of those kind of things. Plus, I'm working with some other nonprofits to set up family dynamics workshops, and got a couple of engagements to do some community outreach with a library here locally and all that kind of stuff. So that's been pretty exciting. It's a lot of work to launch a nonprofit. So trying to get all that off the ground.
Especially in this day and age where, what a poignant topic to bring in, where you have to learn it's whether you love this person or don't, you have to learn to deal with them. So
and my thought is, if I can help people develop healthy families, and we can help develop more healthy, thriving workplaces, well, then you build a better society. It's not about change. I don't think it's about politics. I don't think it's about all this stuff. I think you build healthy families and healthy workplaces, then you build a healthy society.
Yeah, a place for someone to just go at the end of the day and decompress and be around people that they love. And if you go home and those people are also exacerbating you.
That's the trouble. People are going to jobs they hate and are stressed out all day, and then they go in and taking that out on families, and it's a huge mess. So, we'll see what we can do. But I'm hoping the nonprofit can open up some doors to do more than I can do just as an individual. I get some traction just off the book, but I think having the nonprofit is really opening up other doors. It allows me to go to places like the United Way and things like that. To connect with other folks.
In Tennessee, do you have like a National Speaking Association? Like a chapter down there?
I don't think so. I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure.
I would definitely, because I'm taking a speaking program. It's the National Speaking Academy, and it's through the Minnesota chapter. And it's basically, it's two parts. It's teaching you how to kind of craft your keynote and whatever, but then it's also like teaching you how to make your speaking career into a business, while also you get access to all like the people that are in the association. It's very collaborative. So whereas like if you get hired on to be a keynote speaker and I want to be a keynote speaker and we speak on the same topic, they're maybe not going to hire you year after year after year. They'll maybe do you, then me, then you, or whatever. So it's very collaborative, and people are very, like, from what I understand of being in the association, it's very open to just getting good speakers in front of the people who need to hear their message. So that would be a good place to start too, if you're wanting to do more like speaking engagements and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a cost to that?
The academy that I did was, and this, I don't know if Tennessee is going to be similar, if this is across the board, but it's the National Speakers Association Minnesota chapter. And it's the academy that is $1,400. Ours started in October. The enrollment opened up in August. So I got everything else situated. It is October through May, and it's 3 hours a month. And that's it's just one evening, and then at the beginning of the month. And so then I'll drive down to the cities and I'll do a little 3 hour thing and whatever. And then there's some homework to do in the meantime, but it's very beneficial. It was one of those where I kind of knew that this is something that I want to do, but I didn't really know exactly. I didn't have any of my ducks in a row at all. I was like, do I even have ducks? And now I've been starting to acquire ducks and kind of putting them in some kind of a form. So
nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I'll look into that. I'm not sure if we have that in Tennessee or not, but I'll look into it. Yeah,
for sure. And it's just National Speakers Association. And then from what I understand, it's all over the place. So
cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's. I'm hoping that the nonprofit can help open some of those doors too, because like I say, people just I seem to be invited to a lot more meetings when I have the executive director of the Learning Love Foundation.
Yep.
Seems to carry more than just me.
Yep. I'm Dr. Mark Hicks. Yeah.
Hmm.
People want to know what's the Learning Love Foundation. And yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. We're telling your love story today, aren't we?
No, I think that's coming
Oh,
up later.
okay.
I
So
think we've invited my wife to that one
that's
sometime
okay.
later.
Okay, good. So we're just doing another little Learning Love update here.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what we're doing. I'm just showing up.
Abby says jump and we both say how high.
I'm just following your lead.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, Dr. Mark Hicks, we've kind of gone over a little bit of what you've been up to lately in the Learning Love Foundation and the nonprofit that you're working on and all of that stuff. So since we last talked a couple of months ago, what's been the most challenging thing of what you've been doing and what have you learned?
Yeah, the most challenging thing I have done lately is launching the new nonprofit, the Learning Love Foundation. It is a lot of work, and it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of jumping through government hoops, and then it's just a lot of networking. It's a lot of meeting new people and getting my name out there and talking about what we do with this nonprofit and trying to help build healthy homes and healthy workplaces. And it's something that's needed, but it's one of those things that is just, meeting the right people and getting to know folks and showing what we do. And so it's been a real challenge. It's been a lot to do because I do have a day job. And
Yes.
so working that as long, full time and trying to launch the nonprofit at the same time, it's challenging, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So as you've been kind of stepping into this new chapter of what it is that you're doing, are you seeing new challenges that you will have to address with the people that you are kind of helping guide through the process? Or is it pretty much like, nope, it's the same stuff that you're seeing over and over again?
Yeah, it's really the same mission as with my book and with my podcast. It's all about learning love. And I'm convinced that if we learn what love is and how to practice that, it's not just serendipity. It's not just, being fortunate enough to stumble your way into it. And it's not just about meeting that right person. That doesn't mean we're compatible with everybody, but it's not just about that. It's about building those healthy relationships. And there's actual practical skills to build those healthy relationships. And we can do that at home, at work, wherever we are. And I'm convinced that that's how we build a good society. That's how we change communities. That's how we change lives. And so I think that is the challenge. I think we're kind of wrapped up now as a nation in politics, and we are looking for politics to save us. And if we have the right person in office, then it's going to be okay. But then it's not okay because the other side keeps trying to tear them down. And then we hope next time we can win, or if we're already won, then then we're wondering, hopefully next time we can win again. And so it's just this constant battle of hoping our person is in office and being angry that the other side isn't with them and so forth. And I think it's just tearing us apart emotionally.
And it's a distraction from the inner stuff too that you have to work on. Really, I think when I see anyone who's so passionate about something, what really, and maybe this is rudimentary of me, but when you see someone who's so passionate in one way or the other, on one end of the spectrum or the other, whether it's negative passion or positive passion, it just kind of feels a little like, okay, is this just a shield to prevent yourself from really digging in a little bit deeper?
I think that's exactly right. I think it's really easy to sort of project that out and think, we can attach ourselves to something like politics, like a politician, like some political movement. But really, it comes down to the basics of, are we building happy homes, healthy home life, healthy family dynamics? And are we going to work and doing something that we really enjoy in life, whatever that is? And every job's a grind sometimes. Every job's going to be difficult at times. That sometimes bosses are going to make, weird decisions, whatever it is. But it's not a matter of, whistle while you work or, pretend everything's okay. It's a matter of how do we have the right mindset and emotional capacity to really love what we do. And when you love what you do for a living and you come home to a healthy, happy family, if we can do enough of that, we get enough people living that kind of life, then you start to change society. And it's not about the politics or all the infighting we have. It's about building that healthy life.
Yeah. So I have 3 different questions for you. Number 1, I want to talk about, because by the time this airs, all of us will have gone through the whole holiday season and we'll be starting fresh in 2026. So I don't want to say issues, but maybe some of the personalities that we will have experienced over the holidays and how to learn to love the people that we are kind of forced into proximity with. There's a lot of the buzzwords of like boundaries and, cutting people out of your life if they don't serve you and all of that kind of stuff. When you are forced into a family dynamic, what's maybe the healthy way of dealing with these people, and then now we are also all going to be going back and starting a brand new year. We've maybe taken some vacations and some time off of work, and now we're going back into our workplace, back into the people that we are maybe a little bit less forced into proximity with. But if you want to continue to make money and have your career, maybe it's not the best idea to lose your mind and start screaming at people. So how do we deal with some tips going into 2026, dealing with families and boundaries? I think workplace acceptance maybe, and how do we kind of deal with the personalities there, and goal setting. And for the people who are finally, it's a new year, new me, I'm going to go off into the world and I'm going to this is my year. This is my next trip around the sun is going to be my year. What are maybe some ways to manage expectations in that way too? So let's start with family. These are the people that we have to be with. Maybe personalities don't always jive. Where do you land on the cut people out of your life by setting boundaries spectrum, and maybe how to deal with these people?
I think cutting people out of your life is an option, but it is the last case scenario.
Okay.
It's not the option you want to take. It has to be on the table because there are some people that are just utterly abusive. There are toxic, abusive people in the world that you just can't have a relationship with. And so it has to be on the table. But I think sometimes we are too quick to jump into that's meant to be somehow an easy answer. That, oh, well, if they're not serving you, just cut them out and move on. It's not an easy answer. There are a lot of consequences and a lot of emotional baggage that come with cutting family members out. That may have to be an option. If that is an option, please get help with that. There's going to be a lot to deal with there, and there's a lot of grief and trauma to that. And so it doesn't come lightly. But if we don't put that on the table as an option, we really put ourselves into a place where we are stuck, perhaps in an abusive cycle that we just can't get out of, because you can't change people. You cannot, right. and that's one of the critical things we have to understand with family and even with workplaces. You cannot change someone else. You can't make them change. We can alter the situation. We can alter ourselves. We can set boundaries, but ultimately it's going to be up to that person whether they stay with us or not. And what we mean by boundaries, I kind of want to rephrase the idea of cutting someone out of your life. You're really not doing that. What we're saying is, I'm going to live here in this healthy place. This is going to be my realm where I live in this healthy, happy realm where I build a healthy life and healthy relationships. And I would really love my family to be here with me. But if my family chooses to be toxic or abusive, they are then choosing to not live in my realm. And so you've really not kicked them out of your life. On a practical level, yes, you're ending that relationship, but you are allowing them to be an abuser, but not with you. If they choose to be an abuser, they can be an abuser. That's their choice. That's not a great choice, but it's their choice. And one of the things we have to understand, you are not doing this in a hateful way. This is actually a loving act, because the best possible thing that can happen to an abuser is to run out of people to abuse. Recognizing that, it would be helpful in the long run if people would say, no, these are my boundaries. We're going to act like this in a healthy way. It doesn't mean people are perfect. You cannot ask for perfection. Far from it. People are going to make mistakes. People are going to hurt each other. But there's a difference between making mistakes and hurting people on occasion and being an abuser. Right. And so when we talk about boundaries, it's, I'm living here. This is how we're going to live. This is how I'm going to choose to live my life with the healthy people that want to live with me. And if you choose to be an abuser, you are then choosing to no longer be in my life. And I'm going to honor that choice. Again, that's a lot of grief to that. But yes, it really changes dynamics when you live by that, when you allow people to no longer be in your life. You're not kicking them out, but you're allowing them to not be in your life. On a practical level, yes, you are going to have to set some boundaries, because they're going to try to break that. They're going to try to get back into your life. Yes. And so those are going to have to be really firm choices and some distance set. But most of the time, it won't come down to that. Sometimes it will. But most of the time, when you're saying, this is how we're going to live, when people see you're serious, they'll adjust, at least to some extent. They're not going to change, but if they want a relationship with you and you are firm in those boundaries of, we are going to live in this healthy place, they'll come around enough to deal with it. Doesn't mean that relationships are always going to be fantastic. Doesn't mean everything's going to be just the way you want it, but people can adjust if you're clear in those boundaries.
So what would you say is, and I know it's a very nuanced response to a very elementary question, but what is the amount of lack of growth or quote unquote abuse that a person can and should tolerate, because I think that's where it gets into the sticky situation of, it's not a like, oh, you didn't think about me when you went to the store, you got coffee for everybody else, you didn't get coffee for me, I'm cutting you out of my life kind of thing. But it's
Right.
more of a like, you consistently, and there is the obvious, of you're being physically, emotionally, mentally abusive, and then there's that sliding spectrum. And so then is it, when you've got this sticky nuance, I think it can be really difficult, and people can slide back into, because the abuser is abusive and they're good at it for a reason. So I think specifically in terms of, I have someone in my family who I've had to cut her out of my life entirely, and not something that, of course, like you said, it's not something that you take lightly, but the person that I have in my life is a person who pretends that there's no issue and pretends that they are not the problem. And then when something does come up, we've had now a couple of years of time and space away from each other. And then it's just, I'm just going to slide back in and act like everything is not a big deal. Hey, I'm coming through town. Just wanted to pop in. I've got some stuff for you. Always with this, like, I'm doing you a favor kind of thing. And then just slides back in like nothing has happened. So when you're dealing with a person who doesn't want to really accept the reality of it and wants to just pretend that, oh, no, we were on vacation for a couple of years, that's a tough dynamic.
It's very tough. And what you're describing is more common than we let on. That abusers are good at being abusers.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very important statement you made. They're very good at this. And so there are lots of nuances and subtleties. And one of the greatest tricks that they pull is, take some time away, take 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. It doesn't matter to an abuser, because it's always the long game. It's always the way of pulling you back in. And it always is, okay, well, we've had some time away. Let's just let bygones be bygones. Don't hold a grudge.
Exactly. If you continue to hold a grudge because you continue to have the boundaries, you're the problem. Can't we just let all this go?
That is universal. You're holding a grudge. That is always the card that will be played by an abuser, is you're holding a grudge. Boundaries do have to be consistent, and they have to be consistent for years. The only thing that can change that is when the person who is an abuser says, okay, I no longer want to be an abuser. I want to live within these healthy boundaries. That generally doesn't happen, but it can theoretically. I know someone who had to cut family members out of their life, and they did the same thing. They came back a couple of years later. Oh, can't we let bygones be bygones? You've made your point. Let's just forgive and forget all this stuff. And the response was, we can explore having a relationship again when you agree to go to family counseling with me.
Okay.
And their response was, no, I'm not going to counseling. Well, then we're not going to have a relationship.
Yeah.
If you want to change this. And so then you're not cutting people out of your life. You're giving a door. The door is open, and they are welcome to come into your life again, but they have to do it under a circumstance where they learn to not be an abuser. They learn how to have proper behavior, and most abusers don't want to do that. They thrive off of the manipulation and the dynamic, and it's really a sad sickness, but they thrive off of these things, and they need it. They crave it.
Yeah.
And so they'll take as long as you want to give, as long as you'll come back. They'll pick up where they left off, and they'll be nice to you for a while, but it's going to slip back into the same thing.
Of course.
You have to be consistent, and there has to be actual change, not promise of change. And there has to be, usually, I don't know of an abuser that's going to be able to just pretend to be okay forever. It's going to have to be serious family therapy and learn new dynamics. And if you don't have that, then you have to stay consistent with the boundaries. And again, that's going to bring about grief over and over again. Yeah. And that's okay. Grief is a healer. Grief is not something to be avoided. It's a healer. It is sad, and it's okay to be sad.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but it's also unfortunate to live life being abused and being continually manipulated and hurt. No one was put on this earth to be abused.
Yep.
And so boundaries are a beautiful thing, but they're hard. It takes a lot of emotional maturity and strength and a lot of inner work to realize that I am worth being treated well. And that doesn't mean perfect, doesn't mean people make mistakes, but it means I'm not going to let myself be unworthy of good treatment.
Yes. So to the people that are on the other side of the spectrum, the people who, I think it's very easy, because if you have been abused, especially by someone who, emotionally abused, whatever, mentally abused by someone who's a member of your family, and something that just, every time I walk in the room, I'm made to feel like an idiot by this person or whatever. Those are the people who we're having these kinds of conversations, and we're talking and we're asking the questions, right? but it's the abusers who, you stay behind the closed door and you stay in the dark and you can continue to feeling. And I think the problem too is that a lot of us have empathy for the abuser, because I understand why you are the way that you are or whatever, and I know that it sucks for you to be in that position, but it keeps you in the cycle for longer. So the people who are the abusers are the ones that are not going out. Typically, I don't want to say in absolutes, but typically it's hiding behind the wall of shame and hiding, deep within themselves. They're not having the conversations and asking as often. So what would you say to those people if you happen to be a person who's, hey, I've had all my kids have left me, or, whatever, I haven't been able to maintain a healthy relationship, and they're just not asking the right questions. What do you say to those people?
Yeah. If an abuser wants to change, and again, unfortunately, this is pretty rare, but if they want to change, it is possible. It takes work. There is a reason why an abuser is an abuser, and you sort of have to get into that. Most of the time, it's because they were abused themselves. It's because they had that dynamic in their family growing up, and someone abused them, and they followed in those footsteps. Very often in dysfunctional families, somebody is the big dog. Somebody is the alpha that gets to beat up everybody else. And when that person passes away, there's someone moves into that role.
Interesting.
And so those dynamics are built by previous dynamics. When you come to understand some of that, love is a learned skill set. And that's what I teach in my book. That's what I talk about in my podcast. That's what my foundation is about, is mental health education. And building healthy relationships is a skill. And anyone can learn that skill. Now, if you're coming from a place of being an abuser who has been abused yourself, you're going to start really from the ground floor. And that's okay. You can learn the skill. Anybody can learn the skill of building healthy relationships, but you have to get past your instincts. You have to get past just this reaction, and you have to learn the skill, because our instincts aren't in our favor. We tend to want power. We tend to fear no longer being in power. Abusers tend to be intimidating to their family, and they like that power, and it's hard to give that up. And there's always the feeling that if I'm not the big dog, if I'm not the abuser, then somebody's going to abuse me. Probably because that's happened in the past. And so there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of dynamics go into that. It's going to be a lot of work, but it can happen. And as I always say, get a coach, get therapy, get a counselor, get somebody. Don't try to do that by yourself. This is not a pick yourself up by your bootstraps situation. It's relearning the dynamics of what it means to be a healthy person, building healthy relationships. But since it's a learned skill set, anybody can learn it.
Yeah. That's an interesting analogy. I've never thought about it that way, where somebody's the big dog, if the family dynamic is that we've got the big dog, we've got the alpha dog, and we've got everybody else has to stay in line, then yes, what happens when the power dynamic, that person leaves, now someone else, that's what yes, everything is all, we are all just a creation of all of the experiences we've had and the things that we know. But what a fascinating way of looking at it. And almost in like a way of like, okay, so if you feel the need to step in and be the big dog, that's not your fault. That was a dynamic that was created in your household or in the workplace or in whatever. Whereas that's, some other family units might operate more like a troop of prairie dogs, where you've got just everyone's just hanging out and having a good time, basking in the sun. Let's go eat some grubs. And, we see danger and everybody goes and hides.
Yeah.
And what a different and more peaceful dynamic.
Exactly. And I think you hit on it earlier when you said, behind this veil of shame and hiding behind closed doors, that's what really keeps families dysfunctional and toxic and abusive. Don't keep secrets.
Right.
Okay? There's this idea of, we don't air our dirty laundry in public. We don't tell our family secrets. It's nobody's business what goes on with us. No, we're not a perfect family. That's nobody's business. Don't keep secrets. Talk about your family. You're not talking bad about them, but especially in those nuances you were talking about earlier, that it's bad, but is it bad enough? Is it, do I need to set more boundaries, or I need to just be more patient? All these kind of things, those are not easy decisions. And there's no real clear line in the sand. Right. There's some things that are obvious, as you said earlier. If somebody's punching you in the face, that's a clear indication that you're being abused. But there's other things that are much more subtle. Emotional, verbal abuse is much more subtle. And so don't keep that a secret. When you're getting reactions from your friends, from, other distant family members, from a therapist that says, that's not what everybody lives with.
Yeah.
That's not just oops, somebody let a word slip that that kind of bothered you. Somebody said something as a joke that didn't land very well. That
Hmm.
happens. But when that is continual, and you used the example earlier, every time I walk into the room, I'm made to feel like I'm an idiot. Okay,
Yeah.
that's not just a joke that didn't land, and it's not
Right.
just a random comment that was said but didn't really, it came across wrong or something like that. Not just a thoughtless statement. It is a consistent behavior, and when things are consistent like that, it's usually for a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Consistent behavior with negative intention behind it or
Hmm.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with all of that being said, and we're all just trying to kind of go off and, be better people and all of that kind of
Right.
stuff. It's all the learning love and learning how to love yourself, learning how to love the abuser, but, but with boundaries and all of those
Right.
things, and being careful on how you let people back into your life and all of these things. It is tough. And that's also one part of the whole person. So, that's the family life, the family dynamic, the holidays
Hmm.
causes a lot of stress. And now a lot of that too comes with time off of work. And now we're going back into another potentially stressful situation, being back at work and all of these things. So, what would you say to the person who is, I have to go back into work. We've had these couple weeks off or whatever, and now we're going back in, and my stomach is in knots, and I feel like I'm going to puke.
Yeah, and sadly, a lot of people do live with that. When you come out of particularly a dysfunctional family, that begins to feel normal. And so,
Mm-hmm.
if you go into a workplace and that seems like a disaster too, well, that's just life. That doesn't have to be life. One, when you come through the holidays, now that we're into a place where the holidays are in the rearview mirror and we've kind of come through that, do take some time to decompress. Take a
Mm-hmm.
day and do nothing. You know, breathe, take some deep breaths, sleep in, take a day and just decompress. Understand that all that stuff has an effect on you. It takes a toll on you. Even if you had a good time, okay, even if you
Yeah.
had some fun along the way and you love the holidays and you love the New Year's Eve party and all of that, whether it's good stress or bad stress, they both take a toll on you. So take some time and decompress. Don't jump from one to the other. So if you're on vacation and you're partying, you're having fun, it might be wise to come back a day early and just take a
Mm-hmm.
day off before you go back to work and not just jump from one to the other if that's possible. Decompression is a really important transition. Now, if you're going into a job where your stomach's in knots and you just hate being there, that's no way to live. And so, again, just like we're talking about with family, do you cut that job out and move to another
Right.
job? Well, you keep that on the table. Yeah, that's a possibility. And that could be the answer. And it's not bad to kind of look around and see what the options are. However, if it's more of an internal thing, not having the emotional resilience, not having the mindset to love what you do, then you're just going to be taking those problems from one to another. If you're
Right.
looking for the perfect boss, the perfect job, the perfect employer, the perfect amount of money, just loving what you do all the time, that's just not realistic. Work is going to be
Yeah.
work. So how do we love what we do, even when a job is a grind, even when things aren't going to be perfect? And I talk a lot about this in seminars and workshops with the Learning Love Foundation about how to love what you do for a living. I won't go into all that here. We don't have time to go into the entire workshop, but I'll give you one really key element that can help a whole lot when it comes, especially to work. It can help in the family life as well, but especially when we have these job dynamics. Give up the word should.
Okay.
Should is a killer. And many times we go into these ideas of what people should be doing, how people
Mm-hmm.
should be doing their job around us, how our boss should be acting, how our employees should be doing things, what we should accomplish today, how things should look, how we should interact, all these things that we get into our heads that we believe must be the dynamic of our workplace, and then we get angry when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
If we could give up the word should and just be what is, okay?
Okay.
The boss is not perfect. All right. If
Mm-hmm.
it's bad enough, we can look for another job, but we can't accept that the boss is just not a very good boss. We can't accept that we have this annoying employee that we're just not going to listen to because they're annoying. And that changes the whole dynamic. Instead of being in this constant tension of what should be and why is it not like this, and having this somehow concept that we should have the power to change all of these dynamics so it works the way it should, that's a terribly frustrating place to live. When we understand that it just is, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
perfect, and it's far from perfect, and it may not be what we want, but it is. and we do the best we can, and we appreciate ourselves for what we bring to that workplace, and we're putting good effort in, and we're contributing the best we can, and we appreciate the effort that we're giving and the contribution we're making, and we try to see the bigger picture of how that fits in the dynamic, how we're contributing to society, even in a small way perhaps, but every contribution is a contribution, and we just begin to accept this is the way it is. I don't have to fight it. I don't have to feel tension all around it. It just is this way.
So now I have some nuance to throw at you, of course.
Okay.
We're talking should
Mhm.
and eliminating the what should be. And, if only, I should be more productive, whatever. How do you balance? And again, this is the nuance of what you want to have happen, what it should be like. I should be more productive and I should be reaching my goals. How do you switch that from an acceptance of, nope, this just is what it is and that's fine, which can lead to complacency, which can lead to you're not going and growing and working towards the I should be more productive, so I will be more productive, versus the I only have so much time in a day and I'm just going to get done what I'm going to get done.
Yeah, most of the time when we fall into that complacency, just the giving up, the cynical burnout thing, it's because we have spent too much time in those shoulds. It's
Okay.
because we have worked so hard for so long, just beating our head against that wall. And after a while, it just hurts. And we just like, forget it. I'm out. I'll do what I can, and I just don't care anymore. When we make a conscious choice, I'm going to give up the shoulds. I'm going to do the best I can. That usually is not a tendency to fall into complacency. It's a way of making a conscious choice. I'm going to contribute as best I can because I love myself enough to do my best work.
Yep.
And I'm proud enough of myself to do my best work, even if people around me aren't. And I can be proud of what I do, even if everybody else messes it up, because I'm doing the best work I can do. That's not complacency. That's not giving up. It's grasping the reality.
Okay.
I can do what I can do. The complacency is a fear, and it's a legitimate one, but it usually comes because we're burnt out, not because we make a choice to do the best I can and let other things go.
Okay. So continue to you're accepting the things that you cannot change, and also the only thing that I can change is me. So rather than being in the place of I should be better or whatever, the only person who's going to make you better is you. So you're right. If you think that you should be better about something, of course, allowing yourself space, grace, time, whatever, but then also, okay, set realistic goals to meet your needs rather than I should. That's okay. I like that. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we do the best we can, and that's about our self-appreciation, self-care, self-compassion, and self-love of I'm going to contribute the best I can contribute, and then the results are the results because I can't do everything.
Right.
And we're not going to get into we give up the shoulds. It takes you a long way into a little bit more relaxation and the joy of just doing the job you can do.
Yeah. So then you get into the nuance of the different types of team members that there are. From myself, I know that I'm a person who people are surprised to hear this about me. I'm not a competitive person with other people. The only way that I am competitive is with myself. And so that's one type of dynamic, is the people who are, maybe, yes, I can be a team player, but typically it's like I'm not holding myself up to the Mark Hicks standard. I'm holding myself up to the Ashley Green standard, and that's what I'm going to try and meet and exceed and contribute to. And then you have the people who are like, yeah, I show up, I work, and then I go home and I'm going to do whatever it is that I feel like I am contributing. That's what I want to do, and I'm not doing any more than that. You get my 9 to 5, and then that's it. And then you have the people that they're seen as the overachievers, and the ones that are, I'm smashing every sales goal, or I'm going out here and I'm breaking records week after week, month after month, whatever, and holding that expectation to other people, which I say that because I have also been a person who has held my standard to other people as well. And just, why don't you just do X, Y, Z? It's not that hard. Just be exactly like I am and you'll live a happy, fulfilled life, obviously. So when you get all of these different types of personality dynamics in a room together and we all have to achieve a goal, that can be difficult.
It's extraordinarily difficult. We have so many different personality types. I had a person I was talking to recently that was so frustrated with somebody at work because they came from a family that when there was conflict, everybody went back to their own corners. Everybody went to their room. They just thought things through. They took a few deep breaths. Sometimes they realized it really wasn't worth fighting about. And so they came back out and they were fine. Other times they did want to confront it, but they had thought through it before they did. And they came back and they talked it out because they had taken time to calm themselves. And they were working with someone who came from a family who just let everything out. They didn't hold anything back. They wore their emotions on their sleeve. They may yell and fuss and gripe and have it out, but when it was done, it was done. They loved each other and they felt no sense of holding anything back. It was all out in the open and they could love each other for that. And those two personalities are both perfectly fine.
Yes.
Those two families are both healthy families in their own way, but they don't go together very well in the workplace. We deal with this stuff all the time in the workplace. And you have to give up the shoulds. They should not be like your family. You should be like your family if you have a healthy family. That's fine for you to be the way that you are. It's also fine for them to be the way they are. You can't change them, and there's no reason why you need to change either. But we do have to find a way to work together. And so that is the nuance of communication. How are we going to talk to each other? That takes some time, and it's about being open. That person that's always just coming off the cuff and raising their voice because they get so excited. If you're the quiet one, you might say, I need you to calm a little bit when you're around me. That kind of yelling and excitement, I know that's works for you, but I need a little less. You need take a minute, go yell at somebody else, come back in and just tell me quietly.
Yes.
And that's okay to say. And you may have to do the same thing with them. You may have to say, hey, I'm not going to yell, but I need you to hear me here. Because I know you don't listen unless it's a dynamic yelling, and that's not my personality, but I really need you to hear me. And so we can sort of bridge those gaps. We're never going to understand each other. That's okay. We don't have to. We don't ever have to really hang out. We don't have to be friends, but we have to work together. And so learning to bridge those gaps, and that's really about communication. It's really about, and that word gets overused and we just throw that around sometimes, but it's just about saying what you really are and finding what works. And there's usually a path, a dynamic there that just works. Just be practical about it. It's not a matter of singing Kumbaya and coming together and being buddies or changing them or you changing. Find the practical way that works. Okay. If you can't talk to that person, maybe it works better if you just send emails to each other.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you hate each other. It just means that, hey, we communicate better in writing than we do sitting in an office because it tends to escalate. So we just write each other. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. Find the practical ways that work. And that can take a little experimentation. That's okay. But when you find those practical ways to bridge that gap, then you get stuff done. And that's what you want to do at work. You want to be productive so that you can go home and know that you put in a good day's work. You did your job. You did it well. And you didn't have to fight with anybody along the way. There's no hatred involved there.
And I think that's when you get the dynamic of the verbal processor and the internal processor, it almost always feels like those are the two people who have to work together on a project, or the two people who find each other to do life with together or whatever. And as myself being a verbal processor, it's easy. I think the way that we view the verbal processor is more of the aggressor of the conversation, or more of the one who's, hold on, let me finish, whatever. I got to get this thought out. And then on the flip side, the person who's more the internal processor is more of the, like, you're not even listening to me. You're not paying any attention, whatever. And it's just, you've got these two, like you said, the type of person who, as a verbal processor, if I say something, as I'm just rambling things out there and saying every thought that comes into my head and seeing what sticks and aligns with me, whatever, I might say something hurtful that I don't mean. And unfortunately, the other person that you're talking to, if they're an internal processor, they hear that and they go, oh, and that is what implants. And now I said something, I didn't mean it, just kind of came out of my mouth, didn't really, no, that doesn't feel right, whatever. I can move past it. But the internal processor is, oh, you said it, so you mean it, because I don't say things unless I mean it. And now I'm taking this personally, and I've shut off my entire brain to anything else that you have to say because I've locked on to the one thing that I heard that you say that landed with me and was hurtful. And of course, reaffirms all of my own negative beliefs that I have about myself or whatever. And it is such a tricky dynamic. And that is in romantic relationships, in the workplace, in family dynamics, in just existing, in the street. It's when you say the first impression is everything. And if you happen to meet someone and say the wrong thing, just because you were just kind of blathering for a second, it's how do you come back from that? And that's having to learn how to interact with each other.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We tend to assume everyone thinks like we do,
Yeah.
and that every family basically works like ours. And that is a
Mm-hmm.
wrong assumption. That's always a
Mm-hmm.
wrong assumption. And so, yes, it's okay for people to be different than you and for there to be a little, rub there, for there to be a little tension there. That's okay. We don't have to
Mm-hmm.
react to that. We can feel a little uncomfortable with the way somebody does things and not react to it. Every emotion doesn't need a reaction. So if we say, it really bothers me that they just go on and on and on, talk, 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 because they've got to think that they can't think in their head, they have to think out loud. And
Yep.
then they say stuff they haven't even thought about, and it just really irritates me. It's okay. We don't have to react to every emotion. You can think, oh, I did not like they said that. You don't have to react to it. You can think, that's
Mm-hmm.
them. I'm not going to give a should, but they shouldn't say that. That's just the way they process things. I actually know someone who's dealt with that exact thing. Their boss was a verbal processor that was always, hey, can we jump on a meeting? Hey, can we get together? Hey, can I call you? Because we need to think through this. And they always had to talk through it in order to think through it. One of the reasons they did that is because the employee was an internal processor and would be quiet and would
Yep.
listen. And verbal
Yep.
processors need someone who's quiet and will listen. And so,
Yep.
but what she learned to do, because her boss, who's the verbal processor, would say, okay, what do you think? She learned to say, I have to think through it first. I can't talk about it till I think through it. Give me an hour and let's jump on a meeting. Let me actually think through this. I've made some notes of what you said, and let me give you a response in about an hour. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what worked for her. And the boss learned that. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
she's going to give a really good response in an hour, and I can live with that.
Yes.
And so she had to give up the shoulds of, well, I just gave you everything I thought, so you should give it back to me. No,
Yes. Yes.
she works differently. And so in an hour, you're going to get a really good, thoughtful response. So be patient. And
Yes.
so if we learn those kind of dynamics, that we don't expect everybody to be like us, and we learn to say what we need. I need you to jump on a call because I got to talk through this. Or I've heard you, I've made some notes, let me think about it, I'll get back to you. Those are both completely valid. We don't have to react because someone makes us feel a little uncomfortable because it's just not our style.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a rub, a little bit of a tension in the workplace because we just don't quite understand why they are the way they are. We don't have to react to every emotion. You can feel a little uncomfortable with somebody, not understand them at all, look at them and think, how did you end up like this?
Yeah.
But if it's not abusive, if it's just their own quirks, then okay, we don't have to
Well, and I
react to it.
think you had made the point early on too, where it was, I don't remember exactly how you said it, but the sentiment behind it was also having to, if you're just going from workplace to workplace to workplace, thinking that it'll be better over here or whatever, you haven't looked into yourself to figure out what type of person am I. So if you're constantly running into people who are, like you said, giving you the rub, and you aren't everybody, it's always, the problem is always all of these other people. It's not even necessarily that the other person, that you, the individual, is the problem. It's just more of, do you understand yourself, and do you understand why you are the way that you are? And once you have that understanding to be able to say, you know what, I am an internal processor, and so I need to think about, you've given me a lot of information and I need to think about it. I've done the work myself. I've taken the notes, and I'm going to go step away for a second. I'm going to breathe. I'll mute the phone call if you need to, stay present, whatever. But I just got to think about this for a second. Not only are you taking the power back in your own life to be able to say, I know this about myself, but then you're also so much more of a benefit to the other person. It's not just constantly being in conflict with the other person. So how does one go through the process of asking themselves the questions, or how does one go through the process of finding themselves, finding those answers about why I am the way that I am?
And to some extent, you don't even have to know why you are the way you are. It's just the way you are. Now, it can help sometimes if you realize it's more of awareness. It's sort of a light bulb coming on sometimes to think, oh, yeah, of course I'm like that because that's the way I was raised. That's the way things were in my family. And I'm bringing that into the workplace, and they're bringing their stuff from their family into the workplace. That can help with awareness. But even if we don't quite get why we are the way we are, they are the way they are, it's okay. And it's a practice. You're not going to flip a switch and it all be perfect, and you're going to have all these perfect dynamics, and you're going to say the right thing. You don't have to. It's a practice. You can experiment. That's really what we're all doing. We're just experimenting on how we're going to get along. And you can experiment with it. You can try things and see what works. Always staying practical of finding out what works. And one of the things that happens we don't want to just jump from one workplace to another pretending that it's perfect, but there are some workplaces that are completely toxic that you do need to leave. They're just not healthy places to be. But while you're there, you can still practice these dynamics, and these are building real skills. How do you communicate? How do you protect yourself? How do you set boundaries? How do you work with someone who's really hard to work with? And even if you're not successful in that, you're building that skill.
Yeah.
And so when you realize I've done everything I can do on my end to make this dynamic work, and this is just toxic. This is an abusive work area. Any group of humans can become toxic and abusive, just like families. And if we come to the conclusion, I've done all the things I can do, and this is just toxic, this is an abusive work environment. When you go to another place, they're not going to be perfect either, but you've built those skills where you can really work those dynamics in a healthier workplace. Those are going to work. Those dynamics, those skills that you're working. So, don't get too caught up in, well, this shouldn't be abusive. It is. What am I going to do? I'm going to look for another job. But while I'm here looking for that other job, I'm going to build my skills on how do I communicate? How do I set boundaries? How do I stay healthy when things aren't perfect? And then when you go to a healthier place that's still not perfect, but it's healthier, it's going to be a lot easier to build those dynamics, to build those bridges, to communicate, and to stay healthy.
Well, that's perfect. We're kind of rounding out here on our time. So one final word of wisdom for the people who are thinking to themselves, that's it. 2026 is going to be my year. I can finally shed my past self or shed my past way of doing things. And I'm only looking forward. I've got all these resolutions, or I've got one resolution that I've made and whatever. And now here I go. What word of advice would you give to those people?
Go slowly.
Okay.
You can do it. You can change your life. You can build new relationships. You can build a new relationship with yourself. You can learn to love yourself more. You can learn to have a healthier family, healthier dynamics in the workplace. You can change jobs. You can set boundaries. You can do all that. You can't do it all at once. And so go slowly. Go a little bit at a time. It's not a matter of, there is no way to change your life instantly. That never happens. You can change your mind on what you want to be, and you can set a goal, but it always comes minute to minute. What are you doing today that takes a small step towards that? And celebrate those small steps. Celebrate the slowly. If you're an example of a lot of people, a lot of us are talking about losing weight in the new year. That's what a lot of people do. You can only lose weight a little. You're not going to lose 20 pounds tomorrow.
Right.
You can lose it 1 pound at a time, half a pound, a quarter pound, but that is progress. If you are making progress in your marriage, progress in your family, progress at work, progress in your physical health, that is progress. Celebrate it. Slow growth is good growth. And it's usually more sustainable. In fact, I'd almost say always more sustainable than these radical things of trying to change overnight. That it's tempting, but it doesn't work. Slowly is always the best way to change.
Which, I mean, there is, I think, to your point, there almost always slow growth is the best growth. I mean, barring, of course, any outside force of we had this big cancer scare and now everybody, or something happened. We had a benign tumor and now, whoa, I know I got to get my life turned around. It almost feels like you don't want to turn your life around because you've had this big, horrible, crazy thing happen or whatever. That can happen. But yes, it comes with a loss or a sacrifice of something. And so then on the other hand, the slow growth, it's the same thing. It's coming with the loss and the sacrifice of something. You're just spreading it out over time. It's not this immediate, like this hit of, I got into a car accident and now I saw my whole life flash before my eyes. I need to change something. It's more of what typically tends to happen to all of us. Not all of us are going to have a cancer scare. Not all of us are going to get into an accident, but we are all going to see something at the end of the line that we want. And so just pacing ourselves out. Slow growth is good growth. I think that's the perfect mantra for 2026. And just allow yourself the little wins. I think if you're looking for the wins, you're going to see the wins. And if you're looking for all of the ways that I ate a cheeseburger today and I'm an idiot and now I should just give up on my whole goal, then you'll see that too. So, okay, I had a cheeseburger today. Tomorrow, I'm going to try to do whatever, fill in whatever it is that your goal is.
Yeah. Stay in love with yourself. Even when you don't move towards that goal, stay in love with yourself and stay in love with the awareness you have of what you want to do, of where you want to go. And go there, not because it's some arbitrary goal that you think you should do. We'll give up the shoulds.
Right.
Go there because you love yourself enough to build that. That you love your family enough to build that. You love what you do enough to build that at your work. And when you love it, then those little setbacks and things weren't perfect. That's okay, because it's not about perfection. It's about love, and it's about loving what you're becoming. And when we do that, then every little step that direction can be celebrated. And when you do that, it starts building that momentum, that it becomes a passion. It becomes fun. And when things are fun and they're passionate, and it becomes the wind in our sails, but that only happens by those little victories and celebrating those little victories, enjoying them.
You're a brilliant man, Mark Hicks. Thank you for coming
Thank
on.
you.
Always a pleasure. Always a joy having you on the Love Story podcast. Give us a plug for your podcast. Tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, it's the Learning Love Podcast. You can find it on all the platforms. Just put in Learning Love Podcast with Dr. Mark A. Hicks, and it will come up in the search. And you can go to learninglovefoundation.com. I have a link there to my podcast. I have a link to my book. You can purchase anywhere books are sold. I have easy links to purchase that. It's Learning Love, Building a Life That Matters, and Healthy Relationships That Last. So go to learninglovefoundation.com. You can find out all the stuff that I'm doing.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Love Story Podcast. You can subscribe to the show, and you can follow us at the Love Story Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Do you think you have a love story for the ages? Do you think you have a love story that's like a meet cute? Or maybe you just have a regular old love story, but you guys have been together for so long that you don't even remember how you met? We would love to have you on the Love Story Podcast to tell your story. Every love story is unique. Every love story is special. And whether you think you've got a cool story, a funny story, or just a heartwarming story, or just a story of the everyday, regular old love, that's the kind of stuff we want to hear. Reach out at info@lovestoryweddingshow.com, and we will schedule a time to get you featured on the Love Couch. If you're not local, we have the capabilities of doing it digitally as well. So don't forget to reach out, info@lovestoryweddingshow.com, or head to the show notes.